Let's go see what happens. Let's go hunt. Akiya hunt. Action time!
Welcome to episode 2 of
Akiya Hunter!
We are your hosts, Parker
And Matt.
and we usually don't talk this loud.
No.
Sorry.
We're very excited.
It's a loud car. So today we are going off to the mountains in Nagano prefecture to find a super cheap besso or country home.
Right. More a cabin, right?
Yeah. And so basically across the Japanese countryside in the mountains, especially through the bubble period and the economic boom times, everybody and their mother built these somewhat small and easily manageable houses to use basically exclusively as summer houses. So they're not built for around the year living. They're built for, going to a few times a year, maybe spending a long summer vacation. But there's a boatload of them across Japan.
And we got one.
Yes.
Right. And it's on a lake, right?
It is on a lake.
It's in the middle of the forest. It's got multiple ski resorts nearby. And it goes for pennies on the dollar.
Pennies. Well, so where we're going today in Nagano is about 3 hours by car from central Tokyo.
It's a bit of a hike.
And so, obviously, a lot of people who are looking from Tokyo at properties outside of Tokyo are looking at Izu, or they're looking at Karuizawa. And these locations, more or less, are 2 or so hours from Tokyo. So this is a bit further out than that. But, you got to keep in mind, if you're looking at a property in Atami or at the top of Izu, then you're looking at, 2 hours. But it's also, it can't be ignored that because there's so much traffic, especially going down the Izu Peninsula on the weekends, you end up spending, 3.5, even 4 hours to get to Shimoda, for instance. So even if you're going out towards the mountains in Nagano, you're probably going to spend about the same amount of time on the road. You'll just be going at a very different speed.
Right, you have the illusion of motion. Or actually, no, it's not even an illusion. It's motion. Right? And that's one of the sort of almost defeatist things that I'm a little confused by with the popularity of places like Karuizawa or Atami or whatever is I don't want to be sitting, if it's a 3-hour drive, all right, cool, so long as I'm driving for most of it. But if I'm just stuck in traffic, I don't want to be doing that, sitting in place for however many hours. I'd much prefer to be on the open road.
Well, going into the mountains, and we have just kind of gotten out of the kind of more, low elevation part of the journey, and we're starting to get into the mountains right now. And I can already see the car's temperature gauge going down. Today it's about 33 degrees Celsius in Tokyo, which is basically a deep fryer in Fahrenheit. And right now we're in this tunnel and it is 27 degrees. The destination we're going to right now is about 23 degrees. So obviously as we get farther away from the Kanto Dutch oven and into the mountains, of course, it gets nice and breezy. And so really, when you're looking at these properties in Karuizawa and Nagano and Niigata prefecture, obviously you've got relatively close proximity to Tokyo, but it's much, much cooler.
What they were saying was it's really quite, you kind of have to dig yourself to the door sort of stuff. Which of course makes me kind of wonder, all right, like how bad actually is it? Like there's probably some more research to do there, but sort of the top level kind of opinion I got on it was that winters are pretty rough.
When obviously, especially it depends on your elevation, but even in sort of central Japan, or where we're going right now is called the Koshin-Etsu region, which refers to the Nagano, Niigata, and Yamanashi prefectures. But in these areas, depending on your elevation, you can see some pretty massive snowfall. And, of course, for that exact same reason, you can find some of Japan's best skiing as well.
Yeah.
And so Nagano prefecture is probably the most famous to the international crowd for the Hakuba ski resort.
Right, for the
And
Olympics.
so our client today, who's in the back seat looking like he's having a very boring time,
Enjoying the discussion.
is his ask to us was, find me a place near Hakuba, because I want to go to Hakuba, but I don't want to drive all the way to Hakuba. If you've ever driven out to Hakuba, it is about a 4.5 hour drive from Tokyo if you go straight there, and that is a pretty long drive. So the idea with this place is to find somewhere that's almost all the way out there, but not quite.
Right. And also, given the fact that, as you mentioned, Nagano has such immense snowfall every year, and there's so many ski resorts out here. Hakuba proper, obviously it's a wonderful place to be, but that doesn't mean it's the only place to be. And so there's a number of others, hundreds by my count thus far, of other options out there that are, honestly, I don't even know their quality yet because I haven't gone to the ski resorts themselves. But the fact is, there's a lot of things to do out here, not just at the already famous areas. And the property that we found today is situated kind of right in between of a bunch of different opportunities, all within about an hour's drive. So we're about 40 minutes out from the property right now, getting into the serious mountain scenery and forest of Nagano Prefecture. Hunting Akiya.
We did some Akiya hunting of the nth degree, and
third.
Third degree. We saw 3, and at least I have the sunburns to prove it.
Oh yeah, the third.
How's your skin feeling there, man?
Kind of prickly, kind of a little bit.
I think I'm somewhere
spicy.
between rattlesnake and 70-year-old leather seats.
I don't know what to do with that.
But we saw 3 places. We saw 2, kind of traditional country house style cabins.
Yep.
And
then
we saw another home that was basically it was metal siding.
Yeah. And in coming out here, we kind of had an idea of what was of interest, or the order of interest that we had. And it turns out that we were, I don't know if I want to say wrong, but it ended up being quite different. So the first property that we went to was quite nice. The property itself was rather overgrown. A whole lot of work needed to go into it, and that really wasn't listed in the information that we were able to gather.
If the property's yard was a beard, it would be like ZZ Top.
Yes, exactly, the ZZ beard. So that was a little bit off-putting. But if you're a DIY person, you really want to kind of make your own garden and all that stuff, you're probably just fine. The building itself, really quite charming. The staircase needed some work, to say the least. But aside from that, the
We might have
done nothing to it.
Yeah, nothing at all. Nothing at all.
The interior was very well kept. A nice, tiny little cabin in the woods, relatively conveniently located on the inconveniently located winding road. And yeah, I think totally habitable. The kitchen itself really stuck out to me as quite usable. Any thoughts on that one spot, Parker?
The first place?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, the first place was really nice. It had a couple of things that needed repair, and that was actually repaired reported to us in advance. The bathroom unit needs to be replaced, and so that's around a $10,000 repair, 1,000,000 yen.
Right.
And also there were some other smaller repair works. I think the biggest thing was, as we said, the entrance, the staircase up inside. That wood had started to rot, and so that needs to probably mostly be replaced.
Yeah.
And so obviously it was a bit of a fixer-upper, but it had good bones.
Yep.
I think that you can, as soon as you step inside one of these country homes, you can immediately figure out whether or not people have been using it in any time in the last few years. The first and second one, you could tell that someone had been there, and I mean the second one, the people were actually there enjoying their summer when we went and took a look at that. But even the first place, I mean, you could tell probably people had been there that summer and they had been enjoying that property. Yeah.
Which is, do you want to go to the second one or talk about the third one, because that's a nice juxtaposition?
Well, I think we got to start with the third one.
Okay.
Because we saw the first one, it was pretty good, had a few things that needed help. We saw the second one, and wow, we're going to talk about that later. But we saw the third one, and we had been informed that the third one was not in the same level of maintenance as the other two.
Right.
And boy, was that an understatement.
Yeah.
Holy moly.
That exterior just looked like mold. Right.
I don't know what the inside of the Grouch's garbage can looks like, but I imagine it looked like the exterior walls of that last one.
Maybe a little less slimy, but
I don't know. But I mean, did you see the steps? Like, it had this concrete step. I mean, if you like moss, I mean, you could put that in a museum.
Yeah, that was pretty.
It was cake moss. It was all the moss.
Yeah. That being so, and also it was really, really, really overgrown. Also up a very steep. So the land itself is probably very difficult unless you kind of laid steps out to sort of gradiate the ascent. Probably not too much you can do with that land itself. The interior of the house, I mean, yeah, it's musty as hell. It definitely has not really been kind of maintained or cared to over the last.
Well, I mean, if the first one looked like ZZ Top, the third one was like ZZ Top at age 87.
Yeah, or like, what was it, Cousin It from the Addams Family?
There you go.
Something like that. But that being said, right, I still think it's number one, it's viable. It's just a lot of work. I think I called it a project. Yeah, but it'd be a project. But imagining it fixed up, damn, that inside was nice.
It was a 2-story tall cabin.
Yeah. It had a lot of space, a lot of separate rooms, and I mean, 2-story tall is kind of because it was almost. I mean, it was a very tall building, right?
Well, and I think, even though you could tell that no one had been using it, I mean, I want to say probably it hasn't been properly used for at least 10 or 15 years.
Yeah.
And so, considering that, the fact that it's like not falling in, I think that's a testament to the original build quality.
Yep.
And so I think it was well built. I mean, it was built the year 1990, so it's a 30-year-old structure, and it really looks like probably the last 10 or 15 years, really nobody has been giving it the TLC it needs in order to not turn into Cousinette.
Right.
And so that's where it's at right now.
But I feel like so far as the skill
rehabilitatable.
Exactly, but the skill level it's an advanced level of Akiya, I think. So that was that one. But then building number 2 or property number 2, geez Louise. That kind of surprised me at just how fucking gorgeous the entire damn thing was. So, I mean, down these winding, beautiful roads with some canopies going up top. Pull up, there's this tiny C-turn that takes you off the road, lined in hydrangea that are obviously being tended to. And you pull up next to this cute little wonderful, what was it, like 60 square meters?
Around 60 square meters. Driving down that road, and it was also a juxtaposition. I mean, driving down the road to the first one and the third one, which were actually in the same kind of country house subdivision, I really felt like I was in the American South. Like, I could almost hear the banjos, being from Tennessee. I was like, Is someone about to put a shotgun in my face
Where
and
is
then
it?
make them marry my sister?
Yeah,
And
I
then
got the same vibe.
yeah, and then it was funny though, because I mean, only 5 or 10 minutes away from 1 and 3 was number 2, which was really, I felt like I was driving down a road in the English countryside.
Yeah, you mentioned that. And really, and even the quality, because for 1 and 3, there was a really dense forest area, right?
Yes, definitely.
And property number 2, it definitely opened up and kind of let a lot more light in. But there was also, I think, more diverse flora around as well. But yeah, the house itself too was, I mean, there's everything about this property. It's the house, it's the front, it's the drive up, it's the spacious backyard that you could build another one of these things if you wanted on.
Or 3.
Or three. And I mean, they already had fire pits and barbecues and benches and things made for outdoor summer enjoyment and stuff
Well, I
like
think,
that.
we talk about Akiya and Inaka, and the idea is that you go from your Akiya adventure into the Inaka lifestyle.
Yes.
And obviously, your Akiya adventure is going to involve some home improvement. It's going to involve some work that needs to be done.
Totally.
Obviously, it could be anything from a light renovation to a real rehabilitation.
Mm-hmm.
And in some instances, it really just depends on your special set of circumstances. But because there are so many diverse properties across Japan, I mean, even without being too far away from Tokyo, we found a real range of different opportunities. And so really the one that ended up being the clear winner in this case was the turnkey option.
Yeah.
And so really, I mean, it's not even, I wouldn't even call it a full Akiya. It's like a semi Akiya.
Right.
It's like yeah.
Yeah. Sure, I'll go with that. But yeah, charming as all hell. And the view going up and down there was just phenomenal. I could look at that for hours, just sit there. We're on top of I don't no idea how many meters high we were up, but we were really up there.
The second property, well, actually, all 3 of the properties were about 1,200 meters above sea level.
Okay.
And so, we're back down in regular land right now, and it's about 32 degrees Celsius. It's pretty hot. But up there, 1,200 meters high, I think we're around 24, 25 degrees.
Yeah, I spotted 25, which is just wonderful. I will say the bugs were they really came out in full force.
Well, it's funny because the areas, the properties that had more growth, the bugs were like, they were bugging.
Yeah,
they were bugging on everything.
Yeah, we had a close call with that bee.
So, I think the moral of the story is, if you are going to go out to the forest, don't get a bee stuck in your sunroof.
Yeah.
Not a good idea.
But that was the only bad idea of today, I think. Of all 3 properties, there was an obvious winner. That being said, I think all 3 properties are viable for a certain type of person. Again, there's sort of the turnkey solution, which is a very good investment for somebody who's just getting started with looking into abandoned and vacant properties across Japan, especially in rural areas. The first property that we saw, I think, that's a pretty decent medium grade fixer-upper that wouldn't require all that much work going into making it, kind of habitable. And of course, there was the third one, which is really a skilled professional might want to take a hack at that and ultimately turn it into something pretty cool.
Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode of
Akiya Hunter.
We're going to keep on making new episodes of this as we explore the Japanese countryside and all of the crazy empty houses that we find along the way. So please smash that subscribe button and see you later.
See you later.